Welcome to Haunt Topic Radio, the podcast for haunters by haunters. These are our scary visions.
So once again, this is a Haunter's Toolbox live session with HauntersToolbox.com. We're talking to David Bertolino from the OG Spookyworld. So we have David has a book out, Spookyworld. I think it's available now for purchase. If not, David will let us know. It's really cool. It's got all kinds of cool photos in it. Look at that one, man. The first one I just opened up. Shoot. So a lot of these are from David's private collection, his photos that he's taken over the years. So David, so people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in this crazy business of haunted attractions and haunted houses. You got quite an interesting backstory.
I've got a story for you, Brian. Yes. Well, it goes back. I was 14 years old, and my brother was working at a joke and magic shop in downtown Boston. That was a, very well known Little Jack Horner joke and magic shop. And he came home and told Dad, "Hey, Dad, the owner wants to sell the joke shop to me." Well, of course, my brother's 18 years old. He's a little young to take it over. But my father had some interest. It was funny. And, they met for a couple of meetings and came home, and suddenly Dad owns a joke shop. And my brother Carl was, quite a magician at 18 years old, and, doing magic in the magic section, of course. But, we also were a Halloween superstore back in the 60s and 70s before there weren't any. I mean, the only place to go to was a joke shop to buy your Halloween supplies. But we were in on it early. And at 14 years old, I was, quite the hit at junior high school at St. Patrick's High School, bringing in whoopee cushions and itching powder and so forth.
Man, I was a kid of the 80s. I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a great experience, and it made me, quite the guy in the classroom, bringing all these jokes and gags into the classroom. But moving along, I later started a Halloween division, and then was headhunted by Ruby's Costume Company as one of their sales managers, and later years created temporary Halloween superstores before they became in vogue. So we kind of were ahead of the game. There was no book to read, but we created the book, so to speak. But one of the accomplishments that, you're inquiring about today is this little event that we wanted to do at a abandoned dairy farm outside of Boston, and we called it Spooky Hayrides. And we originally were set to rent this place from a bank that foreclosed on a dairy farm, and later found out from the FDIC, "Hey, we're not going to honor your lease because we now own it. The bank is insolvent." And it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so they gave me the opportunity to buy the property at no money down. And basically the payments of the mortgage would be what the rent would have been. So now I'm a landlord, and I own a dairy farm that's non-existent, but made it into this Halloween hayride. That lasted one season. And when I say it kind of wink, wink, I met this wonderful fellow by the name of Tom Savini, who changed my life. And I'm giving credit to him. I don't have creative bones in my body. My creativity was to bring him on board, as many others at Spookyworld. But we'd started Spooky Hayrides in 91, and Tommy came out and said, "Hey, you got to add a haunted house. You've got to add this or that, And it's like he's filling my, head with these ideas, and they were quite creative. Of course, we had no money for it, but I borrowed some money and from a private investor. In fact, I just ran into this guy who owed me money from his company because I represented his company as a salesperson. And he couldn't pay me. He went bankrupt. And he ran into me in the streets 5 years later. And he said, geez, I hope there's no hard feelings. And I said, no, David, I respect you. You tried everything you could. Don't worry about it. It was just a few $1,000s, which is a lot back then in 1991. And he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I'm going to start this Halloween event called Spooky Hayrides, but I'm looking for money, and that's why I'm, walking to the bank. That's where he stopped me on the street corner, and he said, "Don't go to the bank. Let's go back to my office." We went back to his office, told him my story. He went to the next office where his controller was, and he came out with a check for $150,000. And he said, I trust you the way you trusted me. You have 10 years to pay me back. And here's the interest rate. But if you pay me early, there's a prepayment penalty. Or you can give me a piece of your business. Moving the clock quickly.
Mm-hmm.
On the third week of October, I paid back this $150,000 loan for a 10-year period, paid it back in 3 weeks with interest.
Wow.
So that was a Shark Tank moment. And so
I think Scarlet badges are one of the smartest things I've seen in the industry in a really long time. Scarlet badges are basically either pins or embroidered patches, kind of like merit badges, as they are, somewhat named after, from Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Brownies, and where after you've accomplished something, you can wear the brag tag of the embroidered patch. Some haunts put them on jackets, some put them on t-shirts, some put them on, with the pins, I've seen them put them on lanyards. But the neat thing about them is they are very specific in what they are rewarding. And they're haunt-based images that reflect what's being rewarded. It's retention, it is bringing people back, and it's actually giving your haunters, your haunt performers, the ability to share that they are haunt performers. And, oh really, you're a scare actor. Where do you do that? And then they will insert the name of your haunt right there. So it's also marketing. I've always been a big fan of Scarlet badges. I think they're great. So check them out, scarletbadges.com. No, that is not a paid advertisement. That is just my recommendation. I think it's really cool.
ScottSwinson.com.
Tom Savini is working there, giving me advice. I went along with Tom's thoughts, brought him back the next year. We created our first haunted house, which was the Savini Haunted House, and added 5 others over the years, added a museum with collectibles, and now had to change the name from Spooky Hayrides to Spookyworld. And, my partner and I talked about if we can just do 200 people a night, we'll break even. And we did 2,000 a night. We did almost 60,000, I think it was 59,000 paid admissions in 1991. And so we were blown away. It was just phenomenal success. And I'm not a genius by any means, barely graduated high school, but I will tell you that it takes this ensemble of great actors and managers and support people. And of course, the great Tom Savini, who was a, huge help in developing this. And so, hence Spookyworld, the first horror theme park in America was created. And that's it in a nutshell, but it was quite a, as you read in the book, there's all kinds of, detours and off ramps to this highway.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so enjoyable reading, because there was some, really tough things to conquer along the way, but we did it, and it was a blast, man. So much fun.
Once again, guys, if those of you that are just showing up, I see more people showing up. There is a book out, Spookyworld. So is this available for purchase now, David?
It's funny that we're speaking today. It was just released at 8:00 this morning on Amazon. And so they sold several hundred books pre-sale. They have also sold it to every Barnes and Noble in America. So you can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can order it on Amazon. It can be delivered right to your door. And P.S., Brian, if you don't mind me plugging.
Elvira in there.
Yeah, there's Elvira.
Oh,
And by the way, that little boy that picture's in, wrote a story, I think opposite that picture. He contacted me to tell me that his dad was a police lieutenant in the town that we ran Spooky World. And his dad told him that if it wasn't for the overtime that he earned at Spooky World for 31 nights, he would never have been able to afford to send his son to college. So, I'm proud that we've launched, so many ships, being people like yourself who were inspired by Spooky World to build their own haunts, build their own haunt cons, do makeup effects and so forth. But here is just, this private citizen who was a guest at Spooky World, but telling me that he went to college because of Spooky World. I mean, that is just phenomenal.
Yeah, there was that boy again in Elvira. There was that.
Yeah.
Boy there.
Yeah. He grew up.
Yeah. There's also a cool documentary about Spooky World that I watched as well. Were you behind that at all, or?
Well, there was a documentary crew that kept contacting me, wanting to take me out of mothballs. And I thought I was kind of done and moved on. I moved to from Boston, I moved to California, remarried here and, started a couple of little side businesses in semi-retirement. But, I was never, thinking of doing anything beyond that. I was perfectly satisfied with the people who purchased the name Spooky World, and they're in Litchfield, New Hampshire, and they're doing a wonderful job. They have a hayride, they have many haunted houses, they have a monster midway. They followed a lot of our formula, and I'm very proud that those fellows are doing such a Wayne and Mike are doing such a great job at Spooky World in New Hampshire. And so, when I got these calls from a documentary crew, I kind of turned them down until my wife and I watch late night TV. We were watching Seth Meyers, and Seth asked the guest John Krasinski, "Hey, fellow New Englander, what did you do for fun as a kid in October?" And he said, "Oh, it's the rite of passage. Any kid living in New England would go to Spooky World." And then a second segment, they're talking about incidents that happened at Spooky World. And, following morning, my phone is, ringing and text and email. So finally I said, okay, there seems to be enough national interest now. Let's see what we can do. And so hence the documentary. What did you think of the documentary?
It was good.
Yeah, there's a lot of original video coverage. And so, and that's because we had a lot of broadcast media people who would moonlight and work at Spooky World, and they would bring their camera equipment. Who knew that,
Nice.
this was a entertainment history in the happening, but it was. And so we had this great footage. And we had all these incidents and stories that happened. I mean, we just created a mill of promotion every day. It started when we did the $99 weddings and doing 3 or 4 of those a night. And, my staff would say, "Are we making money at $99? No. The justice of the peace is $60. The cake is 30. We're not making money." But every time somebody got married, they would invite 100, 200 people who would buy a ticket, a weeknight ticket, to go see the wedding and Spooky World. And so here we're, selling tons of these weddings. And, it was kind of cool. If you were getting married, you can have, Tiny Tim or Bobby Boris Pickett or Kane Hodder as your best man, or your Linda Blair as your maid of honor. And it just worked out. It was pure magic. And here we are with, no book to read on how to do this, but we just created it along the way, and it worked out very nicely.
What do you think was your success at the very beginning? Was it the celebrities being brought in, or that come after, or since you did such a good job at the very beginning? So,
well, we had the celebrities in day one. I did an interview with Leonard Pickle at the time. He had a magazine out, reviewing and talking about attractions. And I, foolishly said, I put a lot of effort in the promotion, not so much in the event itself. And it's like, what an admission that is. What a dodo bird I am. I mean, really, that is such a insane comment. But I was smart enough to have Tommy come and help design. Smart enough to have our mutual friend Ed Gannon, who is incredibly creative, and his mark is on all of those attractions. Steve Kelly is another one who later became the central makeup person for the ongoing Sopranos. And Mike Marino was one of our early creative makeup artists who was up, for an Academy Award in The Batman and several other movies. And we launched a lot of ships. A lot of, creativity came from Spooky World. Very proud of that. I mean, that's my biggest, I feel, accomplishment is what we have done for others in the past. And we gave a home, as you know, there's a lot of haunters who come to you and they haven't found their place. And that I'm very proud that we're able to give people a stage, a forum to express their creativity. And when you have a barn and your grandma is gonna let you run a show in the barn. I mean, that's what happens. Of course, grandma wasn't there, but the expression is, build it and they will come, and they did. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And again, I share this limelight with the hundreds of people that it took to operate Spooky World every night.
Yeah, I find you definitely have to have a crew of people that are reliable, that you got to gel together because you're there. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you're doing a haunted attraction. When's that start in October? No, it starts in May.
Oh, yeah. We were on the
It's
phone in November sending letters to charities. I mean, that was one of the, creative parts of it is, I would have somebody on a charity desk and they would be working all year asking charities if they would like to bring their kids or their group and give us a reason, why they're worthy of it. And I would get 100, 200 letters and I would go to sponsors, potential sponsors, and 90% of the time, oh no, we don't want to buy a sponsorship. We're going to give you the sponsorship free. Just pay for the tickets for these kids. And ultimately they did. And so Pepsi, Dunkin' Donuts, iParty, all of these chains of stores were very supportive in the charity area. And ultimately we gave them the sponsorship being in. And I got to tell you, when you do sponsorship, it's wonderful because they're a partner. I mean, they distribute your discount coupons at their locations. They hang up your display poster in all of their
Mhm.
locations. I mean, it was just it was a great joint venture. We had some great promotional partners.
Have you checked out HauntersToolbox.com yet? It's free to join and full of useful information to help you start and grow your own haunted attraction business. All the information on HauntersToolbox.com is created by the pros who do it. We have a library with ebooks and presentations on topics like creating an employee handbook, starting a business plan, or the best types of lights to use at your haunt, plus a lot more. You get instant access to the library plus free video masterclasses by the experts in the haunt industry. Classes like Alan Hops from Dark Hour Haunted House teaching scare acting, or Philip Hernandez from the Haunted Attraction Network teaching marketing and social media, or Leonard Pickle from Hauntpreneurs teaching haunt design and construction. I even got a few master classes in there as well. You don't have to do it alone. Let us help you. We also host monthly live masterclasses to steer you in the right direction so you don't get lost. Once you become a member, you also get instant updates on our next masterclass in your email so you don't miss the next one. And if you need more one-on-one help, there is an option for that as well. I would be honored to help you get your attraction started or help you grow your current one. I know what it takes. Let's talk. If you're interested, you want to start and grow your haunted attraction, go check out HauntersToolbox.com. Don't be scared. I know a lot of haunts do that now, and they'll put like the business name on the ticket or put
Yeah.
their logo outside on the front or mention them in the radio ad or whatever. So it's always a mutual, win-win for everybody when.
Yeah. I was the, a buyer of what's called remnant, advertising that's unsold. And so I would go to my sponsors and say, okay, this ad normally is, let's say hypothetically back then, $2,000 for a 30-second spot. But if it's unsold up until the day of the airing, they discount it sometimes 75% off. So I'd pay
Nice.
$500 and I would have an agreement with my sponsors. I'll tag you as one of the four. Will you pay $125? So four of them paying $125 each would give me the 500. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the commercial, discount coupons available at Pepsi locations, Shaw's Supermarket, Dunkin' Donuts, Lappin's Auto Part, whatever it is. But they would get a little hit on it. And of course, one of the additional perks is we would give them a night for all their employees at Spooky World. Always a weeknight, by the way.
Yeah. Slow night.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I know some haunts do media nights now where they either do a opening weekend. It kind of gives the actors, or maybe a weekend before the opening weekend, it gives the actors time to play too and try to hone their craft before the customers come in. And so spooky. So do you remember the crew that you worked with? How many people there were? And
Well, I mean, we probably had in the area of about 30 actors in year
okay.
one on our hayride trail. But from the first night, we were short. And Ed McDermott, who lives now in Florida, we call him Mackie, would literally uh, go to the line, the ticket buyer's line, and tell various guests, "Hey, do you want to be an actor tonight?" And literally bring them to wardrobe and makeup, and
Put this on.
and yeah, exactly. We'll give you free admission, and we'll give you a $25 stipend to be an actor for the night. And we were recruiting like that for the first week. And then we just brought on as many of the local townspeople as possible. And that was another, nice touch to hire within the town you were operating in. And that's what we did. I mean, that was first choice of casting call was the local towns where we were located to give them the opportunity.
Yeah. I always find it easier for those people to get there too. Sometimes if they're out of town, like I don't have a ride and I can't make it tonight. So
Right. And they complain less of traffic jams
yeah,
when they're actually working
I was like, okay, we'll send somebody to come pick you up. We'll be there in 15 minutes. Be
there.
ready.
Right, right.
Yeah. So what were some of the setbacks, some of the hard things when you started Spooky World? What was the hardest part about it?
Um, it was being not knowledgeable, being unaware. I
Yeah.
mean, my wife and
Didn't have
I.
YouTube, right? Didn't have the internet.
No,
So
no.
no.
I mean, my wife and I, we had four portable toilets, and there was a line, like 20 deep in front of each one. And so by the end of the week, we had 20 toilets, to serve 2,000 people.
Uh-huh.
And so we didn't have anybody to clean them. And so my wife, after we closed at midnight, my wife and I would stay till 2 in the morning cleaning 20 toilets. I mean, that was short lived, granted. We went to 40 toilets right away. But I
Uh-huh.
mean, you got to, that's the kind of things we were dealing with. It's as simplistic as it sounds, but, just the massive amount of crowds that came there. I mean, I was taking it kind of poorly, and Tom Savini said, well, why are you crying about this? And I said, well, look, there's a sign. We're closed for the night. We're at capacity. And he said, each person that leaves is going to tell 10 people in the next 24 hours that they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get into Spooky World. And you're going to have a bigger weekend next weekend. And by the way, we were open in the early days, we were open 31 continuous nights. I mean, we never stopped. We never had a day off. I mean, kind of praying for rain sometimes,
Right.
it was weird.
Yeah. That's a feat trying to get your everyone on, your staff for 31 days.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
So I know we were over, well, Daryl in Canada, the co-host on on these. They do a hell week like the last 2 weeks in October, and it's
Uh-huh.
14, 15 days. Um, Plus, I know a lot of haunts can't make the numbers up during the weekdays, so they just
Right.
roll it back Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday, sometimes early Sunday. Um, but you didn't have any issue with that, so
No, no. Talk about weather for a second. Weather kind of lucked out for me. The gods were with us. I had a media director who I hired who was in line to get a ticket. And his wife was selling us newspaper advertising, actually trade advertising. And I said, I am so screwed. I need help with media. I got interviews. I've never done an interview. I think I'm too nervous to do an interview. And he said, my husband's in line, and he works at the local WBZ NBC affiliate. If you'd want to talk to him, so I talked to this fella, and by the time the night was done, he was our media director, and
mm.
he knew all of the people at the local NBC affiliate. And one of the people that he was friends with was this fellow Bruce Schwegler. I don't know if this is. I think this is legal. I don't think I'm saying anything illegal, but we'll see. But anyway, Schwegler was the meteorologist for the TV show, for the news. And I would call him and say, is it going to rain next week? And he would look at weather patterns, and he had, satellite access, which the average Joe doesn't have. And I'd say, what airport would be the one to measure rain that would be the rainiest? And he would tell me. And I would call my weather insurance guy. Do you believe it? Weather insurance, but
Uh-huh.
5 years ago. And I would buy weather insurance on the days that I knew it was going to rain.
Yeah.
So I actually, made some very strong success with this contact. And I hope that he and I don't wind up in jail now that I've admitted this.
Yeah, people think, what do you mean you have to go dig for this information? Yeah, you just couldn't pull up an app on your phone.
No, no,
It's like,
no.
no.
Yeah.
Now it's so easy. You got four apps open at the same time.
Well, this guy had access to all the satellites and weather patterns and tracking. I
That's
mean, more
smart.
sophisticated access than anyone would for
Yeah.
those days. And so, I knew which airport to measure, and I knew which would get the most rain at a certain time. And we really lucked out the first 3 or 4 years. After 3 or 4 years, either they caught on to us, or that access of information was more available, and so it cost more to instead of a deductible of $500 or $1,000, all of a sudden the deductible was like $10,000, and it wasn't worth buying the insurance anymore. But those
Mhm.
early years, it was great.
Right. Let me pause for a second. You guys out on Facebook, um, we're going to try to get your questions. If you have questions, leave them in chat. Daryl's not here tonight, so it's just me manning the show, but I will try to get your questions answered before the show's over. I'll probably save them to the end so I can scroll through them and look. Um, so for hay rides, I know it's a tricky thing. It's outdoors. It's hard to scare people sometimes because of the barriers. What kind of stuff did you do at Spooky World that made them feel like they were in the show?
Well, we had obviously a lot of actor base by second year, and but in addition, we hooked up with through an introduction in the industry a company called VP Productions, and they were making a lot of animatronics for Chuck E. Cheese, and I wanted to get it first year, but the prices were so high. But when they met Tom Savini, they were kind of gaga. And
Hmm.
because of Tom and his presence, they, on loan, complimentary, gave us some animatronics and also offered us animatronics at very low pricing that Tom designed for them. Uh, if he agreed to design and give them ideas, and also I helped them sell their animatronics elsewhere to other haunters. So ultimately, by year 2 and 3, we had at least 50 animatronic characters which is unheard of in this, back in the early 90s. You're lucky to get an
Hmm.
actor, never mind an animatronic. But
Right.
to augment the actors with these great animatronics was wonderful.
I noticed it's like, did you have like barn structures set up where the
Yeah,
hayride would go underneath there, and with the trailer pause, and then with the actors get on the
right.
trailer, and animatronics would come down and kind of get a little show, and then pick back up, and then
Yeah, we had a hayride trail in our woods with 22 stops along the way. And there was a little show at each, some 30 seconds, some a minute, never longer than that because we needed throughput.
right.
They were probably a lot longer in the first week, but we shortened the storylines and made it, a little quicker because that's the funny thing. Let me reflect back on this that you'll find interesting. We had 5 hay wagons holding about 30 people. By year 2, I sold those hay wagons, reordered uh, 8 or 10, I think 10 custom wagons, and they were 30 some odd feet long, which makes them not roadworthy anymore. But they can hold, instead of 20 or 30 people, they held 70 people. And our throughput was phenomenal. And then, with the help of some very creative people, again, such as Ed Gannon, John Denley was on board, Burton, I can't think of his first name. Bob Martin was another, and of course Tom Savini. We had all these creative people adding to this hayride trail. We added animatronics, we added fireballs, we added. It wasn't high tech though, but it really was convincing.
Hmm.
And then we added, by mistake, I had a Freddy Krueger on the hayride trail.
Mm.
And here's a little setback, and I think I mentioned this in the book. I got notice, I got served by a sheriff, a marshal, that were infringing on U.S. copyright and trademark rights on Nightmare on Elm Street. And they were absolutely right. And
Hmm.
so I contacted New Line and I spoke to this John Sununu like bulldog who was looking for bucks. And, this started in January, but, kept texting and going back and forth. And so I kind of laid low and went to Toy Fair because I was working at the same time for Ruby's Costume Company as a sales manager. And they just landed some licensing of characters from New Line Cinema. And so they said, David, come over here and say hello to David Batesh. He's the head of licensing at New Line Cinema. And I said, oh, ouch. And what's the problem? I said, well, you're suing me. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I own Spookyworld, and we had this Freddy Krueger character. It's like, oh, all right, all right. Well, I'm involved in some other presentation. I think it was with Spencer Gifts that day. And so Howard Beige continued talking to New Line. They called me over at the end of their meeting and they said, what's your background? What are you doing? And I said, temp stores. I have Boston Costume. I create some products for a separate division called Charades, very much involved in Halloween and now the horror theme park. Well, by the time the conversation was done, they hired me as their expert witness for cases of them suing for product infringement. And so I went to several courtrooms and got paid fairly well and fun. It was fun. And they didn't pursue their lawsuit for us to use the Freddy Krueger character anymore.
So did you continue to use Synth Freddy, or
I don't think we did because we
yeah,
wanted to be, do the
fresh
right thing.
start, right?
But I actually reached out to a friend of mine, Lloyd Kaufman, who let us have the rights to Toxic Avenger for $1, and we created a Toxic Avenger waste dump. And that was great. I mean, we had falling billboards over the hay wagons. We had, toxic materials flowing from probably a couple of hundred of these fluorescent barrels along section of trail where the Toxie character was. And so yeah, so we were very careful about using licensed characters in the future.
Yeah, now some of the smaller haunts can get away with it because they're kind of quiet. But once you get to that status and you have that
Oh
many
yeah.
people,
You
you're
know,
like,
we're on TV a dozen
yeah,
times a day with commercials, radio, billboards. It was time to clean up our act.
right.
Yeah.
Now, did you run all the businesses while you're doing Spooky World, the costume shop and the
I did. My wife ran Boston Costume, and my brother, was the catalyst for us to get in the Halloween industry. I owe him quite a bit. I mean, it was his idea with the joke shop that progressed to Boston Costume, and then but I was headhunted at Ruby's to, be one of their sales managers on the East Coast, and I was with them for about 20 some odd years.
mm,
Uh, so I have, I have a background of horror and Halloween in me.
yeah. So who are some of your favorite celebrities? I know it's hard to choose one or two, but
Well, I was very, it's funny. The book, I had a few negative things to say about people, and they didn't let me do it. People who had issues that later cleaned up their act. But, some of the greatest celebrities are good friends of mine to this day. Linda Blair is a great friend of mine. Tom Savini, great friend. Kane Hodder, Doug Bradley. There was one person who was absolutely, the worst celebrity that I could ever have dealt with, unreasonable from day one, regretted booking him the day that I signed the contract. And, come to find out he was this way with lots of people. And I can't mention Mickey Rooney's name, but did I say, oops, did I say that?
The- so let's say other haunted attractions want to get celebrities to their haunt. What kind of process do you recommend? Is reaching out to their agents, or what kind of system did you have? You set up a table, autographs, do you charge for the autographs? How's it all work?
No, Brian, I have to admit, I use the phone as a lethal weapon.
Hmm.
And I don't wait till October to invite them. I start inviting these celebrities in January. And when I send them a letter, I, spill out my heart to them and say, this movie that you did was so exciting. I give the reasons and what great range and what great character, and, give them the truth from the heart, what I think of them. And sometimes they respond. Like in the case of Linda Blair, she didn't respond. And so by the second year, I get a phone call, and it's Linda Blair saying, "Well, I didn't return your call, so you're working on my mother." And I said, "Yeah, please come here." And I said, "Look, it's a family event. It's a safe way to spend Halloween for families. It's deep in the woods in New England. It's got a family-friendly vibe, even though it's horror. And you're going to have a ball, and you're going to make some money." He says, "Well, I don't charge for autographs. You just pay me a fee." And I said, "Look, whatever your fee is, I promise you're going to make more charging for the autographs." And back then, the black and whites were $10, and I think the color ones were 20. And now, they're much greater. But back
Mhm.
then, that's what they charged. And I gave her an idea. I said, "Let me get a skid of pea soup." And I brought in a skid of pea soup. And she signed the cans. "You make my head spin, Linda Blair." And
Nice.
she donated all of the proceeds to her fundraiser for dog rescues. And so I think she was getting back then 40 or $50 a can, and went through probably 500 cans.
Yeah.
So it was a great donation, and she was just so sweet about it. And she lives here in Acton, California. I live here in North Hollywood. I visit her. I drop off dog food. I drop off. And my wife runs 5 Airbnbs in our backyard. We have these luxury cottages, and so during turnover, she replaces every pillow. So we bring the pillows to Linda, and after they're well used, we bring her the blankets and the comforters and the sheets. And so these dogs live in comfort when we drop off our stuff at her dog rescue.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah, we like to dabble in pets as well. So
yeah,
they're they're just like one of the family.
yeah. Oh, yeah, they are
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
This podcast episode sponsored by Scarlet Badges.
We always were looking for ideas to get those actors to take it to the next level. I really want to do something that they can use more than just a meal, or they can use more than just a that a boy, that a girl. They love this stuff, but it's not really promoting the haunter. And then I sit down, Scarlet Badges comes out. That's when I realized this is amazing, because not only is it giving them an attaboy, but it's also promoting them all year round. And to promote somebody, to give somebody accolades all year round and have them be able to wear it on their shoulder with pride means a lot. This right here says this is who nailed it on this day in this year for the rest of their life, for the rest of their haunting life. And that's what I really love about this product, is you're able to give haunting to somebody an attaboy 365 days a year. And that's, so hats off to you guys. I think this is a great product, and I wish you the best of luck because it's awesome.
Get your Scare Badges at scarebadges.com.
So do you still see any of the crew from Spooky World? The
I
these
do, you
actors
know.
or
That's the nice thing about having these cottages. They tell me when they're coming out. I give them a complimentary cottage, and we hang out. And we go to some great local places, and it's fun to see them all. I'm having a total blast with them. But now they're all coming out to at these conventions that I'm doing. Last year, I wrote the book. And then I worked when I was traveling. I went to every haunt con last year to develop a second book. So I was rating the haunt cons. While I was in those cities, I went to the haunted houses, I went to the theme parks. And then off season, I went to the horror themed coffee shops, horror themed restaurants. And I tell you something, I have a book that's coming out. I'm not sure what the date is, but as a result of doing so much traveling, I've got all of this content, and Ed Gannon has helped, and several other folks in developing. And this book is the top horror and Halloween events in America. And so it's a travel guide by state order, from Arizona, Alaska, all the way to Z, whatever that is. And it's got everything in there. As I mentioned, all those categories and plus some. And so this is the ultimate travel guide. And nobody's ever done a complete horror and Halloween travel guide before.
I don't
So
think I've seen one. No.
yeah, that's going to be exciting.
So what's your next one you're going to be at? You got anything?
I am proud to say that I have a Q&A and also a signing table for my books, but I have a Q&A at Monsterpalooza, and that is the last weekend in May, 29th, 30th, and 31st. And I'm so excited because my panelists include Tom Savini, Kane Hodder, and Alice Cooper, who's graciously agreed to be a panelist. And my moderator is a great Hollywood director here by the name of Adam Rifkin. He's got some phenomenal movies out. He's done one of my favorite movies called The Last Movie Star with Burt Reynolds. And so I'll be at that Q&A on Saturday, May 30th, as well as a signing table in the celebrity area. In addition, signing the book, and also I'm giving a trick-or-treat goodie bag from my publisher that has candy and cockroaches and snakes and so forth as a gift to each person who buys a book there. And I also have the original first year Spooky World ticket. So I'm giving that as a bookmark with each copy of the book that's sold. So I'll be there that weekend, Monsterpalooza.
So if you're listening or watching, make sure you go to Amazon and get the Spooky World book, so you can take it and get it signed. But you'll have books there, right?
I'll have books on hand there, actually.
Okay, we'll just show up to Monsterpalooza.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were the originator of the Haunted Attraction Association?
Yep, I in '91. That was our first year, and it was called Spooky Hayrides. And so then in the spring of '92, they had a a Halloween section of people. And I happened to be there anyway because of, Ruby's Costume Company. And so people were coming up to me at the Ruby's booth. And it was people who were mostly fundraiser people. There really wasn't a lot of horror. There were no horror theme parks at that point, but there were lots of independent haunted house people. And they would come to the booth, and management at Ruby's is saying, "Who are these people? Why are they taking up your time?" So finally, it's like, folks, okay, I know you have a million questions, and the questions are legitimate. Where do you get your insurance? It's hard to buy insurance for a haunted house. They don't have a category for it. Where do you get your, animatronics? Where do you get your props, displays, whatever? What's the method of how you're paying these people tax-wise? And they're really valid questions. And so I said, okay, let's have a meeting on Saturday night at my suite. I'm at the the low end Marriott brand. I think it was called Marriott Suites, right by the Chicago, the Transworld space. And so I just kept inviting everybody, not realizing how many were going to come. And I would say there was at least 50 or 60 people in my tiny little suite. And we didn't have chairs. Everybody was on the floor. The bed was loaded. It looked like an orgy at Woodstock, but everybody clothed, of course. And so, we had, who would you recognize? Leonard Pickle, you'd know. Sidney Neal from Utah, you would know. Joe Jensen from Chicago. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Okay.
Dave Clevenger, who had Terror on Church Street in Orlando.
Terror on Church Street,
Yeah.
yes.
There's this newcomer, Larry Kirshner.
Oh, Larry.
He was driving us
The
crazy.
darkness, yeah.
Yes, a lot of darkness there. And so, we had this packed room of entrepreneurs. It was great. And so I said, look, this is wonderful. We're all getting together. We're all sharing ideas. Oh, but you know who was there too? You might get a kick out of Philip Morris. Do you remember him?
Morris Costumes.
Morris Costumes, yeah. And so Phil was sharing stories, and I said, look, here is a sheet of paper. Put your names down, put email address if you have one back then, or your contact information, and let's create an association that we can share these ideas. And I think Sydney, took the names down and, was agreed to, handle the paperwork for it. And so that was the start of the Haunted Attraction Association, which now has 4,000 members.
Right.
It's wonderful. Yeah. It's great. It's great to share the ideas. And
they do a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the humble beginning of that association.
It all started on the back of a napkin, probably. Or
it was just really just loosey goosey, but that's how things are done. It was wonderful. I mean, I'm back with a smile. How can this have happened? This is great.
So after scaring people all these years, do we have anything that still scares you? You go to haunted attractions? You kind of let your guard down and go in, or?
I go in fresh as a kid, no expectation or low expectation. And, I enjoy it. And I enjoy the creativity of a lot of these people. It's wonderful. I mean, I wish there was more sharing of ideas.
Yes.
People are very, they're not, a lot of people aren't open to, I have to admit, knowing and admitting that I was the dumbest person in the room, people would be willing to share with me.
Right.
So after I got by the humiliation of that admission, I learned quite a bit.
Yeah, I always ask my actors for ideas. Try to listen to customer feedback so I can incorporate that, make it better. And well, I heard your midways were something to behold. So give us an idea of when you pull up to the parking lot of Spookyworld, what would you see? How everything's going on? Actors in the parking lot. Walk us through the midway.
Sure. Well, the Monster Midway was populated with carnival rides, but we insisted that they had to theme them. So they had to go get creativity of, putting some decorations. The games were all themed. And so that was fun. I even added my own game. I would go to Quincy Market fruit market at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Well, it's actually Monday morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would get all of the rotten tomatoes and I would get crates of them, put them, I'd line my SUV in plastic and I'd bring them back to Spooky World. And then we would use them for a clown tomato toss. And so if you hit the clown 3 times, you would get this monster prize, absolute monster prize. And so, everyone was a winner. Even, we'd make sure that you'd hit at least once to get something.
Yeah.
But that was the most popular game, is the ugly clown tomato toss, and it was very popular. I remember Drew Bledsoe coming to Spooky World, and he hit a clown so hard in the head. And these tomatoes are soft, so they just explode. But it was just so funny. It was just great. Yeah.
They look like blood almost, like bam.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, when we moved to Gillette Stadium, partnering with the Patriots football team, I went over to the stadium grounds, practice field, and I said, Drew, can we film you throwing a pass and then you turning to the camera with this dialogue? And he called upstairs to Mr. Kraft, and Kraft agreed. And, the moderator said, Drew Bledsoe, you just tossed the pass to move on to the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next? And I'm going to Spooky World. And that commercial ran the whole month of October, and it was great. I mean, it was great. No licensing fee, no appearance fee, just fun. It was great.
Seems like you found creative ways to do things, either on a budget or use your resources or use your connections.
I do a lot of begging.
And a lot of begging.
Yeah.
Or persuasive, probably, determined, maybe a little bit.
Well, the secret, again, like when you ask, how do I get the celebrities? It's the same way I get the sponsors. I start in January. Everybody wants a celebrity or a sponsor, as you're approaching October. But who is crazy enough to call them in January and saying, hey, you should see the lineup of celebrities I have coming next October? And it's like they laugh at me. They laugh because they know that I'm into it. I'm being sincere. And so, every couple of months when I have something to report, I share the joy with them. And then they're kind of on your team by then. It's great.
Yeah. Like once you get that first celebrity, then, hey, I got Linda Blair, or I got so-and-so.
Yeah.
You want to be next. So.
I mean, Alice Cooper, my partner who, passed away during the season of at Spooky World, had cancer. And, but, initially he was moonlighting at Spooky World as my partner there. And he was in the rock and roll. He managed a rock and roll facility in downtown Boston. And he contacted this fellow, Shep Gordon, who at the time lived in Maui. And he left messages for Shep. So I got the phone number, the direct number, and I called. And I got a call back saying, why are you calling me? You go through my agent. And it's like, I'm sorry, I got this event, and telling them all about it. And he said, okay, give me more information. He says, all right, contact, our manager out in the United, I think at the time the fellow was in Arizona. But anyway, that's when I developed the relationship with Alice Cooper. And so, again, did a lot of begging. But I found out that he loved to play golf. And so I researched with my staff saying, what's the best golf course in all of New England? And it just so happened there is a prize-winning 9-hole golf course called the International, and it's in Massachusetts. It's near where Spooky World was. And so I called with that message. I said, do I have a golf game for you? And he was all ears. And the next thing you know, he books his rock and roll tour to make sure that one of the dates was near Spooky World in October when we were operating. And the nice thing is, he would ask me to have golf partners with him, to meet him at the course. And who did I get to partner was potential or already current sponsors of Spooky World.
Uh-huh.
So, vice president of Dunkin' Donuts played with, Alice Cooper. And one
Right.
of the sales managers at Pepsi played with Alice Cooper. And so
Uh-huh.
they loved it. I loved it. It was a great opportunity. And it all gelled together. It all worked together.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's why I see a lot of I think what makes haunt successful is doing that, using your resources, using every aspect of whether you're asking your friends, you're asking your relatives, whether you're using your celebrity connections.
Sure.
You got to use those resources or there's a lot of things left on the table if you don't.
Sure.
So,
Sure. It was fun. It was like, I mean, I guess I didn't follow protocol, which is what everybody has told me all my life, but it
well,
seemed to work.
what does it say? Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So,
There you go.
oh, so what do you think separates some of the haunts that last 20 years from those that just start up and they 2 or 3 years and they go away? What are they doing wrong? What can they do better?
And I don't want to mention names, but I've walked through some attractions and I would notice, trash on the ground or incomplete displays or stuff in disorder. And, as an owner, you should be walking your place before you open during the afternoon as if you were a guest, and what would turn you off should be corrected. And I don't know if the feedback just doesn't get to people or it's a money thing for some people. Larger corporate events, I noticed, are kind of sloppy, and the individual owners are quite bright and astute and more motivated to run a tight ship.
Yeah, I think I see a lot of them maybe not putting the right people in the places that they need to be put. They try to manage everything instead of having a zone leader, like 5 zone leaders, and then having them control that area, or maybe communicating with the actors more. Say, hey, every night, clean your mess up. If you see something broke, let us know. Tell your zone leader with a walkie, let us know. Make sure, I see a lot of that just kind of getting through the cracks and they don't pay attention to the detail. And then
Sure.
by the end of the season, they're like, it's just a few water bottles on the ground or some soda
No.
cans piled
Yeah.
up, or I see that stuff. So yeah, I agree.
And it starts at the top. If you start, having your staff do it or you're correcting the issues, they'll follow your lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I
Something,
mean, hats off to all of those independent operators who really put their heart into it. I'm in awe of them and appreciate what they do.
yeah. Seem like the ones that have been around a long time have a solid crew that have been there. Their rate, their turnover rate is very low because everybody is been there for 20 years or whatever. So it's good once you're kind of in that family. You're just
Yeah.
kind of, let's go to the haunt. It's time to go.
Exactly.
It's October. Let's roll. So
Yeah.
what do you miss the most about Spooky World?
Well, um, it was heavy lifting for me. I think I moved on from it when we weren't able to operate the way we should have. We lost our hayride at Gillette Stadium, so when we didn't have that, that was a huge setback. And then my partner passing away from cancer, I thought, okay, it's time to semi-retire, and I moved out to California. I do miss the fun of, that opening night is huge, excitement and stomach aches.
The screams.
Yeah, yeah. But, I look back with, a smile that we were able to achieve what we did. I mean, on the busiest nights, we were doing 10,000 people a night. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just phenomenal. It was quite an event. Yeah.
75 people on a trailer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, there was something I was going to mention. I saw it in the documentary. I think it was the rat maze,
Yes.
the mouse scene in the rat maze. What was that all about? That looked pretty cool.
We had an area in Cirque Macabre, which was one of the haunted houses, and we had thick plexiglass floor, and underneath it were about 20 huge rats running underneath you. And in addition, when you're in that rat area, we had a crystal casket that Ed Gannon designed. And in that crystal casket was Ruthie. The most photographed attraction at Spooky World was Ruthie. And we had 20 mice, 200 mice, little feeder mice. They were white. And Ruthie, I would bring her like once a week a gallon of peanut butter, and she would smear it on her body. And the mice would go nuts licking it off of her. And then she would be screaming or crying or whatever, whimpering. And, it was the most photographed thing at Spooky World. But by the third or fourth night, my media person, Fred Sherman, gets a call from PETA saying how upset they are. And so I guess I can admit this now. Shame on me. I'm sorry. But I said, put them on hold. And I said, go back to the call and tell them that you are in agreement with them. But David is being unreasonable and there's nothing you can do. But if you want to protest, you're welcome to, because there's cameras here all the time. And so he encouraged to do a picket line in front of Spooky World. And as soon as I knew that they were doing that, I hired a pet psychic, a pet veterinarian, and a pet psychiatrist. And they came and we did a press conference. And on Monday mornings, they would call in to all of the talk radio stations. And the psychic would say that she channeled with the mice and they were having a good time and they really love it there. And the veterinarian said there's no signs of stress, there's no cuts, they're enjoying themselves, the food seems to be adequate. And, and so here we are on national broadcast. We're on Howard Stern. We're on Howie Carr telling the world how nice these mice are. And they're actually going to go on vacation in November to Miami, Florida, where David's going to send them on vacation. And we played this up every Monday, after the show. And so PETA folded, and they were happy that I was, paying attention to their protest signs. So
Right.
we all got something out of it.
I do like the idea though, because people don't like rats. So crawling over it or walking over it,
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your big thing I know throughput had to be crazy. So how do you just keep the line moving and entertained?
Well, when we moved from Berlin, Massachusetts to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, we had fresh new buildings. And so instead of 6-foot corridors, we made them 10-foot wide. And we made the hayride that it has a couple of paths so you can, double the capacity of the normal hayride. And so everything was geared as for larger crowds. Now, some people said, okay, it lost its intimacy. I agree, it did. Especially, you can't beat Berlin because it was a sleepy farm town. I mean, it was in a valley where fog would naturally collect on its own. And when you walked on the grounds, you can smell the hay in the former horse manure that was there in the fields.
Yeah, the environment, the setting's
It had
perfect.
It had the feel, I have to agree. But, the stadium also, it was wooded area. And we were able to get, bigger celebrity names and bigger throughput. And so, it wasn't just a numbers game. We were still delivering on great quality of show.
Yeah. Do you know what causes haunted attractions to shut down before they even get started? The top 3 roadblocks are lack of funding, lack of leadership, lack of resources. As a member of the Haunters Toolbox, you get instant access to the tools you need to start and grow your own haunted attraction business. To get started, become a member at haunterstoolbox.com. It's hard to beat that environment, that setting, like you said. It's
no doubt. Yeah, it was charming.
When we first started, we did our first attraction was in the woods.
Yeah.
So, and then several years later, I moved it to a warehouse, which kind of a different industrial type of feeling here,
Right.
but a more spooky trees and witches and crazy, just the wood stuff and
Sure.
shadows. And
Yeah.
so I missed, but I didn't mind being inside because when you're outside, the weather and the snow,
Sure.
because here in Missouri, you might have a 20-degree October night with rain. So it's like,
Right.
but
Well, I got to tell you, I did a closeout. There's a show once a year called the ASD show, American Surplus Dealers. It's at the Sands Convention Center. And there was a company, people sell the last of a run of something, or they might change a product design, packaging, whatever, and they sell it for pennies on the dollar. And this fellow was a Mexican gift supplier, and he had blankets, a closeout of blankets, and he would imprint the name Spooky Hayrides on the blanket. And it was a closeout, and I had this opportunity if I bought all he had, which was like something like 1,000 of them. And I said, Jesus, this is going to last me 10 years. But they were like $2 a piece. How could I say no?
right.
So I bought the 1,000 of them at $2 a piece. And then here we are loading up the hay wagons. First week, it's pretty warm. Nobody's buying a blanket. By the second week, instead of 70 degrees, it's like 40 degrees. And we sold, the point of it is we sold out of every blanket. I don't even have one. In fact, I was going to buy one, but it just killed me to do it on eBay for $600. I said, no, I'm not going to buy it. But I mean,
What'd you
that's
sell them at? Like $10 or
$10 a piece.
10 bucks? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
made $8 profit on
Yeah, it
each
was
one.
great.
Yeah. Right.
And it was a bargain. I mean, Jesus, when you look at it, imprinted blanket for $10. In
Yeah.
fact, I learned something from that. I started printing T-shirts in year 2 and on, and I would sell them at cost. I would get
Mhm.
like $4 or $5 for them, and everyone said, "Oh, you can get 20 for this, or 25 even back then." No, I want everyone to buy one. I want
Advertising.
everyone to go to work the next day wearing that shirt.
Yep.
And I always maintain that. I mean, I know it's a big profit center for Disney and Universal, but it was more important to get the name out initially.
Right. I know some aunts do like a low level t-shirt for cheap, and then they do like a full custom print design on front and back, an upsize or an upcharge
Sure.
or whatever for that way you're doing both.
Yeah.
But yeah, t-shirts and merchandise is the way to go. So
Yeah.
you see if there's any questions out there. No, Damon Carson, he's a big fan. See, we have James Warren. I'm on the Spooky World video narrated by Kane Hodder and later Kane and I became friends. I met David B on the sidewalk outside the trade show. I was totally fanboyed out when he said, "Are you the Avon Warren that owns Frightland?" So that was James in the comments.
Nice.
Weldon Black, VP United Volunteers of Maine, operating out of Maine for 20 years. Honor
Nice.
House. James Warren said the food Midway was amazing. So what kind of food and stuff do you guys serve at the Midway or did?
Well, the Monster Midway had the traditional, burgers and hot dogs, and we had a Papa Gino's concession, so that was pizza that was pretty well recognized as a Boston recognized brand. But then we had Dracula's Cafe stop by for a bite, and that was booked to groups or weddings that wanted a preset meal. So it was a whole complete meal at Dracula's Cafe. You sat down at these hand carved coffin picnic tables, and we would bring in vendors as well. Like in Foxborough, we had somebody who was selling rattlesnake and just crazy exotic stuff. I remember Kevin Bacon and Sean Penn tried the rattlesnake, and they liked it. It tasted like chicken, they said. They were shooting a movie nearby, so they brought their kids, and of course the whole family came. Robin Wright with Sean and Kara Sedgwick with Kevin Bacon and the kids, and they had a ball because they were shooting a movie called Mystic River.
Hmm.
which Sean, I think, won an Academy Award for that year. But they had a long shooting schedule, and they would come out late at night and chill out at Spooky World.
Mm. That would be fun.
Yeah, and they, they were laid back. I mean, people, they weren't getting stormed because they were kind of somewhat disguised, but I mean, they took pictures and gave free autographs and really cordial to people.
Damon Carson asked who wrote the Spooky World jingle. It was very catchy.
We nobody has taken ownership of that. I don't know. I think, in year one, I had a $10,000 budget for radio, so I gave $3,300 to each of three stations. I think one of them did that.
Yeah.
And then we just adapted it all those years. It's a catchy jingle. It drove people crazy. And, and sometimes we would just do the jingle. I think there was a thing called AccuWeather, and they only gave you like 10 seconds to do a spot. The weather brought you by Spooky World, and then America's horror theme park, Spooky World. So for 10 seconds, that jingle ran like constantly on stations that served up AccuWeather forecasts. So
Yeah.
you hear it repeated, it drove you crazy.
People probably mocking you in the line. Do Spooky
Yeah,
World.
exactly. Oh yeah, no, I've heard that plenty of times.
That's what makes it, because yeah, we have like pest control companies. You have a friend in the Steve or the pest control business called Steve's Pest Control. It's like in your head. So
So ask me about Tiny Tim or Bobby Boris Pickett.
okay, let's talk about it.
Bobby Boris Pickett was a character. He was, I mean, I never knew there was such a thing as a functioning alcoholic, and I love him dearly. He's since passed on, but he would drink. He did three shows. He would get on stage and he would tell the crowd, no bones about it, I'm going to do a medley of my one hit. And so he was on the stage and he would do the Monster Mash, which is the Halloween national anthem.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
he would drive to the grill restaurant down the street and he would have two double scotches. Second show, he'd drive back, do a medley of his one hit, drive back to the grill, two double scotches. By the third set, the third time up, we knew we had to send a police detail or a security guard to go pick him up. And they was sometimes literally carrying him in, one policeman on each side of him.
Yeah.
And I would look at him and say, and he had to leave his car at the grill for the night. And they would bring him to the karaoke stage, and I'd look backstage and I'd say, how is this going to happen? He's going to fall down backstage or in front of the stage, one or the other. And each time he surprised me. They opened the doors when they announced him. He came out in a bed of fog and go right to the microphone, do his whole little speech, and he looked great. I mean, he sang not, perfect on key, and he would go out and immediately need help to the car, and they would just bring him straight to his hotel and tuck him in. But he did that every night for 31 nights. I don't know how he did it. And it's funny, all the other celebrities, like Tiny Tim, would go into the barn and sign autographs and make himself $500 or $1,000 every night.
Right.
Bobby didn't want to do that. He just wanted to have his drinks. And so it was sad, but true. And Tiny was a trooper. I mean, he would do his three sets and he would sing, lots of songs, all like very supportive Americana, Grand Old Flag, God Bless
Right.
America. And then he would end with Tiptoe Through the Tulips. And we would get a skid. By the way, at the ASD show, we'd buy closeouts of plastic tulips, and he would throw them to the audience at the end of the night.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was a badge of honor to get a tulip from Tiny Tim. But and he was just a great guy, phenomenal, very quirky, very strange.
Right.
But he was I enjoyed his company. He was a fun guy.
Yeah, I saw that on the documentary. Then I knew the one song, the Tiptoe, that one, and I was like, okay. Then I started going down the rabbit hole of watching his videos and other songs that he had sang, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. So,
He actually, I arranged, he got married at Spooky World. He remarried a childhood sweetheart. And I called Jay Leno, and the Tonight Show covered it. And so millions of people were watching a wedding on October 31st, live from Spooky World on the Tonight Show.
Oh yeah.
That was wild. I mean, that was just insane.
Did you see your numbers pick up after like a big thing like that? Like,
Well, it was on Halloween night. It was the last night. But
True.
I mean, I'll tell you, the biggest push of numbers I ever had was having Willard Scott on the Today Show do the weather 4 or 5 times live. And one of the segments was with Tom Savini, because Tom happened to be there. And it was just phenomenal. I mean, we had 22 incoming phone lines. Back then, people didn't have, email, websites.
Mhm.
And so they were just coming out back then in the 90s. But, 22 phone lines, and all of them ringing from 7 o'clock in the morning after his first broadcast. It was just phenomenal. And my numbers picked up greatly. It was phenomenal.
That's great.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you want to talk about and say about Spooky World that I haven't asked you?
Well, encourage folks to go to Spooky World in the fall, in October, in Litchfield, New Hampshire. Also, if you want some of my stories about my horror celebrities, or just an interesting slant on the beginning of the Halloween industry, it's Behind the Screams at Spooky World, but it encompasses much more. And the video, if you have Amazon Prime, it's you can access Spooktacular on Amazon Prime, which is
very
the
good
documentary.
Yeah, so while you're on Amazon, watch the documentary, just go buy the book. See, it's easy.
And come out to Monsterpalooza next week, 2 weeks from now. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, is there a booth number you have, or
I know it. Yeah, I'm there somewhere. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm in the celebrity signing area. Not that I'm claiming to be any kind of celebrity, but my friends will also join me for my Q&A, which is at 4:00 on Saturday at Monsterpalooza.
And what's the Q&A? Is it more directed toward horror celebrity stuff, or is it?
Well, it's basically, what we just covered now, but some really inside stories of some of the celebrities and the fun times that Kane had, and Tommy and Alice. I mean, Alice has a great story about a woman's water broke in line, waiting for an autograph from Alice. She refused to leave. So he had to have her come forward, quickly sign the autograph, when we brought her by ambulance to give birth.
That's dedication there.
Yeah.
So I'm not leaving here without an autograph.
Exactly.
Well, appreciate your time. If you are in our group now, so you might want to go back
Awesome.
and look at some of the comments that people have said about Spooky World, and I'm sure there'll be some follow-up stuff later as they're watching the replay. So
Excellent, Brian. Well, this has been a pleasure, and it's fellow haunter. It's great being with you.
It was great to actually meet up and finally get to know you. I've heard your name around for years, so this is a good one for me. So appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.
Well, once again, guys, get out and see Spooky World. Buy the book, go watch the documentary, and if you are on our list, you'll get an email of this. You'll get a podcast link once this goes into a podcast. So stay tuned. If you're on Facebook, this will be pinned to the top of our Haunters Toolbox group for probably 3 or 4 weeks until the next one. So just go to the top of the group and you will find this recording, and make sure you watch it. So, all right, David.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
All right, brother. Bye-bye
See you
now.
later. Bye, guys.
This podcast episode sponsored by Scarlet Badges. Get your Scare Badges at scarebadges.com. Also sponsored by Haunters Toolbox. Take your haunt to the next level at haunterstoolbox.com. Thank you for listening to Haunt Topic Radio. Please leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. Each comment you leave will help spread the word to other haunters around the world. See you next time.